بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. We usually use this time before Salatul Jummah to answer questions that have been submitted online. If you're interested in having your question answered, you can download our app. It's the Al-Hijrah app. It is available both on the App Store and the Play Store. Or you can scan the image when you walk in, have your question answered. Open your camera. Don't take a picture. Just open the camera. A link will pop up. Click on the link and you can submit your question, inshallah, anonymously. Are you allowed to have music and dancing at a wedding? So it depends on the type of music and it depends on the type of dancing, right? So, for example, if if you have a women's gathering and there are women in that space and there is some music playing and maybe an instrumental and they're dancing, and would that be something that would be considered haram? I don't think so, and I don't believe so. If you have a space where it is just maharim, so if you have a small gathering, it is you, your daughter, maybe a few other family members, and you're standing and you're dancing with your daughter out of happiness. Again, depends on the type of dancing that's happening. So again, this would be conditional on what type of music is it and what type of dancing is going on. And there would be some tolerance for that. There are different cultures that dance in different ways. So I've attended some Saudi weddings. So the Saudis, they have like the sword dance. You know, it's not very, how do I describe it? There's not like a lot of body movement, right? Like it's not as involved, I think, as some Western dances. But like, so a lot of the Eastern cultures, I've been to Saudi weddings where I've seen it. I've been to some Sudani weddings where I've seen it. The Indo-Pak weddings, no, like those are actually very. I think there's a lot of inappropriate dancing in those, but at least with a lot of the Arab weddings that I've seen, there is not a lot of heavy body movement, right? It's just some movement, maybe a little bit of movement with a beat. In those kind of things, because it's not overly sexualized, right? And it's just more of an expression of happiness. I think there would be a lot more tolerance for those type of things versus where there's like overtly sexual movements where those things wouldn't be tolerated. So, and again, it would be like a case by case thing that we would have to look at. But in general, like I know. I remember I went to this Saudi wedding when I was in Mecca one time, and we went, and I think we got there like around 10 p.m. And like there was basically what they do is they rent out like a whole building, and then there's like a wall in the middle. We were on the men's side, and obviously the women were on the women's side. And on the men's side, we walked in, we socialized a little bit, and then all of a sudden they brought out all this food. We ate food, people drank tea, and then all the men started leaving. And I'm hearing all like this music and stuff playing. I'm like, what's going on? They're like, oh no, the women will be here until Fajr, right? we're going home. That's just how they did it, right? So that was part of their culture, and usually that's what happens. Like the women, they'll have music and they'll dance and it'll be amongst the women. So different cultures, they express it in different ways. So again, it really depends on the case. It depends on the situation. And I think everybody has their own comfort zone. There are many weddings what I went to. They're like, no, we don't want any music. We don't want any dancing, and that's good too, right? It's completely up to the families as long as they're following as long as they're not committing any Shari'i violations, then it's fine. Why is Ashari Aqidah valid for Muslims when it was thought that came much later and shaped by Greek philosophy? It actually didn't come much later. So you have scholars as early as Bayhaqi, who was Ashari, who was also a muhaddith. The question comes, like, I think this is like the fifth time I've had this question about like Ashari and Hanbali and Maturidi belief. Like, what is it? Right? These are very important questions that we need to have. A lot of times it's very easy for us to attack these belief systems and say, okay, well, we have these different polemic schools. And someone might be like, okay, well, what is it that the companions believed? There are certain sciences that developed later. So if I went to a companion, if I went to Abu Hurairah radiallahu anh, or if I went to Umar, or if I went to Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, and I said, what are the arkan, what are the wajibat, and what are the sunan of salah? Right? This type of construction they didn't even have. Right? These constructions, they came later when you had scholars who said, okay, hey, listen, we need to start categorizing things. With the companions, these type of categorizations didn't exist. They didn't need them. This is something that was inherently understood. So when you talk about the formation of different sciences, even if I asked, for example, Afsah al-Sahaba, right? If I asked Hassan al-Thabit and I said to him, I was like, yeah Hassan, radiallahu ank, can you give me the i'rab of some of these, can you give me the voweling and give me the reasoning of some of the reasons of why you have this line of poetry that you've mentioned? Why is this marfu' here? Why is this mansub here? Why is this majroor here? Can you tell me, can you give me the i'rab of this? Can you tell me the fa'il? Can you tell me maf'ul? Is this maf'ul mutlaq or is this maf'ul bih or is this, right? Can you do that? They didn't do those things. These categorizations, regardless of what they are, they came later. So what did these polemic schools do? What was their job? What was their job? Why did they come about? They said, okay, how do we understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And they said, okay, well, these are the different ways to do it. These are the different understandings that we have. This is the way that we deal with it. They're all theoretical. Whether you go from the Ash'ari school, whether from the Maturidi school, whether from the Hanbali school, these are all theoretical ways to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's dhat, to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sifat, to understand issues of qadr, even. Because these things, they were not discussed in detail by the companions. They were not discussed in detail by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And just like people had questions, someone might be like, well, why do these questions even come out? Why do we need to deal with this? Okay, when people had questions like, okay, what are the arkan of salah? This is not something that the companions asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli." They say, pray as you see me pray. They didn't go to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, okay, which one of these was necessary? Which one of these things are sunan? Which one of these things are arkan? Which one of these things are wajibat? And even amongst the different schools, you have different categorizations. In the Shafi'iyah, they don't even have the arkan and wajibat. They have rukn and ab'ad, right? Is this a part of the salah or is it not? So someone might say, okay, well, this is unnecessary and this is extra. Why are you going into so much detail? Because it helps when it comes to categorizations and when it comes to creating these sciences. And that's all these schools did. If I have a problem with certain understandings and how they present certain things, I think that's fine, and I'm willing to have that conversation. But to constantly attack polemic schools, to constantly say, okay, well, the Ash'aris do that. Okay, tayyib, bring some of the Ash'ari scholars. Bring what they have to say. And I guarantee, any book that you will go to explain something, especially if it's a book of hadith, you are going to rely on one of these scholars. I guarantee it. So it's interesting to me how we're so easy as Muslims, like so quick to attack each other without even understanding what it is that's being said. So if someone is interested in these things, then we talk about them. That's fine. But does it help the Muslim discourse? Does it help the conversation that we're having? If someone wants to understand Islam, it's not that hard. It's the 5 pillars of Islam, it's the 6 pillars of Iman, and it's those things that Allah subhanahu that we agree upon are haram: lying, stealing, backbiting, cheating, murder, etc. It's not really much beyond that. And if I want to go beyond that, we can. Those are more discussions, these are more classes, this is more time. But maybe just to come to a khutbah or just to come and pray and make salah, this is not something that most people are interested in. People are interested in how do I increase my iman? How do I better my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How do I better my relationship with my mother? How do I better my relationship with the community? So those are the things that we tend to focus on. These discussions, again, I have no problem having them, and I have no issue discussing them. This is part of our turath. This is part of our history, and this is part of our tradition. And they're healthy discussions, but they need to happen in the right space, and they need to happen in the right place. Wallahu a'lam wa sallallahu ala khayri khalqin. Nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.